lifestyle program. We've been doing this for about 7, 8 years, and I've probably had 20 lifestyle coach clients in that time. And I could tell you just story after story how effective this program is. It really helps. And what I really want to do is so when I came here to do the training that weekend, Roxanne came up to talk to me, and I didn't know her and she didn't know me, but I needed somebody to volunteer to be a client. And so I asked her if she would be a client, and surprisingly, she said yes. And so we've been doing this for about 2 months. And I just want her to kind of share her sort of a testimony of what this program has meant to her. Okay, not yet? Here.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, just like what we've been doing and how it's affected you.
I'm surprised.
Yeah. No, I told you I was going to ask you.
I know.
Okay. But that's okay. You're fine.
Oh,
She's got a mic.
okay. Okay.
No, it's a free program. No insurance needed. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, just what you've been doing.
Yeah, I have been roller. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
So, I think that it's wonderful.
Here, put it up. Yeah, it's on. Yeah, it's on.
Okay.
You just have to hold it close to your mouth.
I don't like this thing, but I don't know. I've never really, I don't know. What I've been doing, I do have a testimony in the health program. I feel like it's, wow, working wonders in my life. When I first started, I really wasn't feeling all that good and healthy and all sorts of things. But when we first started, I wasn't walking a lot, little if any. But then we started my son was here. My son is like, Mom, let's go for a walk. Let's go for a walk. So every day, whether it's my lunch break or not working, we would walk. And I found myself saying, I think in our thing, I would try, was it like a mile?
Yeah, the first time we walked, we went to Veterans Memorial Park, and we walked around it once, and then we sat down for the rest of our hour.
Let's talk.
And talked, yeah. But since it's been so hot, we've been going to the Olympic Oval, and that's probably about the same distance. And this last time we went was last Monday, and we walked 6 times around. Yeah.
She's like, can we, do you have time to go again? And I was like, I gotta go to work. I'm sorry.
I know, I kept saying, do you need to stop? She goes, no, I can go. Yeah.
I'm like, I wasn't feeling any pain. It was great.
Yeah, the first time your knees were really hurting.
Yeah.
But this time, like she didn't feel any pain.
Yeah, and then I've been biking. Like I took like the stationary bike, and I didn't even realize it. But working my first job, I can ride the stationary bike as I'm I don't know, waiting for a phone call. And one day I was just waiting for the phone call, so I just kept on riding.
Yeah, she rode
and then I didn't realize how long I had ridden. So I waited from 7:30 until 10. I guess we were having computer glitches or issues. And then I glanced at the clock and I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So without even knowing how long I was doing it, I was doing it. I loved it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm mic issues.
Yeah,
Don't like them.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So, but she's a really, really good. She's like an ideal client because, in this program, you set your own goals, and you as a coach, you don't push them, and you don't set goals for them. They set their own goals, And like the very first week, she exceeded her own goal like 3 times. And so she's really willing. And you'll find sometimes other clients who are not so willing, who are more resistant. And so this program, after Rocky Mountain Conference Health Director and Eden Valley worked together, we changed a lot of the program. After we had everything finished, then Rocky Mountain Conference, North American Division wanted the program, and so the Rocky Mountain Conference is sharing with them. So in front of your thing, it says North American Division program. But it's basically the program that Rocky Mountain Conference and Eden Valley did together to do lifestyle program in people's homes. So you'll see, we're just going to go over this book really quickly. Okay, so you'll see like there's a health partnership. It's a. Can I take this? Okay. There's a health. It's a short survey. Now, you don't fill this out yourself. Your client fills it out, and if they ask questions, you can ask. Now, if some of the questions are a little too intrusive, they don't have to answer. So they don't have to fill every page out, but it'll give you like a starting point to know like what kind of health issues they have, what they want to work on, and how you can help them. So this is something that I do at the initial appointment. So this is a 12-week program, but like I was telling Roxanne, I've had clients that lasted 2 years because they wouldn't quit. And she kept saying, no, I still need help, I still need help. So instead of every week, we started every 2 weeks and then once a month. And then finally after 2 years, she had lost 64 pounds and she belonged to this large non-denominational church that they had a big dance group. And so her goal was to join this dance group and dance. And so she reached her goal and yeah. So it really does work. What I really like about it is that we're not just helping people to become healthier sinners. We're lifting Jesus up. And so we changed the name from Wellness Coaching to LIFT, which is listen, inspire, facilitate, and transform. So this is how the program goes. You listen and listen and listen. And you'll see as we go through the book how we, as Seventh-day Adventists especially, who have had the health message, we know a lot of information. And so when we talk to people about health, what do we generally do? We talk. Okay, so we're trying to like teach them all the time. And people people need you to listen to them. And so the most important thing in this program is for you to listen. And you'll see the principles of how to do that. And Jesus said, if I be lifted up, I will draw all men to myself. In other words, if you lift him up, then he will do the drawing to himself. You don't have to convince them. You don't have to convict them. Jesus will do that for you. So if you will turn the page of the introduction. So we're going to introduce LIFT. We're going to see how and where to use it. And then there's some skits. So Jesus' way of coaching, Jesus always asked questions and he listened. He listened a lot. He did these long sermons, like Mount of Blessings, and some of those long sermons. But when he interacted with people one-on-one, he asked these leading questions and he listened. And you'll see how you can do that too. So where do you use it? You can use it at the church, a lifestyle center like Eden Valley, community health programs. I've done church training where the church members went from 40 attending to 120 attending because of the church members' involvement with this program. And a lot of church members are scared to do Bible studies, but this is the message that we know. We know our health message. And so people aren't as intimidated to use the health message, to do health coaching. Basically, it's not Bible study, but health studies. And so, however, in my experience, 90% of my clients turned into Bible studies. And you'll see as you do it, because there's a lot of spiritual components to it. And let me tell you, once people are helped and they feel less pain, more energy, they feel better, they really trust you. They really start trusting you. And the spiritual components of the program, they get more and more interested in that. And so they do turn into Bible studies. So you need to be aware of that. Okay, so LIFT is, you'll go through the program, different components of it. Okay, on page 4, if you want success in your ministry, work like Jesus. Jesus mingled with people. He lifted up God as someone who was very positive, optimistic, whose desire was to see people live to their fullest health. And as you work with them and they see Christ in you, a lot of people say, like, why are you so different? You know, like, you always sound so positive, and no matter what's going on, and you have this trust in God that seems to give you peace in life. And as they see that, then they desire that too. And what are they desiring? You or God? God, right? Yeah. Because they see what God can do in your life. And this is important because sometimes empathy is a gift that God gives people. It's not one that I have naturally. I'm kind of like a tough love kind of a person, so if people are complaining, I used to. As you do this more and more, you do start to feel more empathy. You understand them and stuff better. But when I first started, I just wanted to say, what's wrong with you? Straighten up and
You're very pragmatic.
yes, I am very. Yeah. But as you get to know people, as you get to working with them more and more, it's easier and easier to feel more empathy. Because, I think Jesus felt a lot of empathy for people. He even cried over the city of Jerusalem and what they were going to go through. But the last point is the most important. Listen. Listen. And we're going to go over some of it. Now, on page 5, the one thing that I want to point out is that under model, number 4, it says, place yourself in their place with empathy, feeling their pain and dreaming their dreams. Now, this is important, like I just said, but you don't want to feel their pain so much that you become depressed and you start, not being able to function. And so the way to avoid that is you just pray and ask Jesus to lift you up, so that you can feel empathy, but not go down there with them. So that's really important. Okay, so in this training, you're going to learn some things of questions to ask, what you should say, questions to ask that will lead them to sort of look at their lives, look at their desires, look at their current situation, and help them. But it's, like I said, it's really important to ask them questions that makes them think and that they can answer for themselves, not for you. That's really hard. Then the other thing is we need to connect with people in a casual way. And you'll see how we can do that in a little bit. But curiosity plays an important part. So I like to watch people. And I'm always curious about what their lives are like. At an airport, I'll sit there and I'll make up whole life stories for these people that I see around me. And I'm sure I'm like 99% wrong. But that curiosity is important because it keeps you interested in their life. Okay, so page 7, the important part in this page is lifting yourself, you really need to pray. You need to pray, pray, pray. Pray for your client, pray for yourself, pray that God will lift him up in your life so that they can see. Now, page 8, 9, and 10 is like a skit. These are example skits that you can kind of read through to see how a session might go. Okay, how to ask those questions that you need to ask. All right, page 11 is, this section is talking about how to connect with people. So when you connecting, where do you find these people? So you can go to the gym, church or event, work, school. One time I was at a grocery store and I was buying a whole bunch of tofu. Like I had like 20 things of tofu in my cart. And this lady behind me, she says, well, what do you use all that tofu for? Like, what are you making? So I told her that I was catering a wedding and they wanted baked tofu, but I called it grilled tofu. And she goes, but tofu doesn't taste like anything. And I said, I know, that's why it's really good to make things, because whatever you season it with is what it's gonna taste like. And so she said, well, I would love to learn how to make tofu because my son decided he was gonna be a vegetarian. And so he had a little sister who decided she was gonna be a vegetarian too, but she was only 6. And so this lady didn't know what to do because they ate meat 3 times a day. But the son had gone on a field trip to a meat packing plant, and he had seen how meat is made and how they kill the animals and stuff, although they didn't show that to the kids, but So he said he was never gonna touch meat again. And so she said, I don't know what to do. And I said, if you have some time, I can come to your house and show you what to do with tofu. So we made tofu dessert, we made baked tofu, we made tofu scrambled eggs, we made a bunch of stuff with tofu. And her husband had just had a heart event. He didn't have a heart attack, but he had a heart event. And so I said, well, I'm from Eden Valley Institute of Wellness. We can show you how to live so that you don't have a heart attack. And so I did a training session with him for like 3 months. And he got off of his, not his high blood pressure medication, but his cholesterol, his triglycerides, everything went to normal. And so, he was just amazed. So I met her at a grocery store buying a bunch of tofu. So, you can be anywhere. A lot of times, if you have health programs, so like stop smoking programs here, do you guys do that?
We want to.
You want to? Okay. Yeah. Now, I did a little study before I moved here about Utah and this area specifically. And Salt Lake and Utah in general have a higher rate of diabetes than a national average. And if you went to Costco and looked at people's grocery carts, it is all boxed meals, meats, lots and lots and lots of meats, and just really things that contribute to lifestyle diseases. And so you can see why diabetes is a little bit higher. Well, it's actually quite a bit higher here than somewhere else. So one of the programs that's really effective, it's called Diabetes Undone. And I know churches that do Diabetes Undone, they end up with lifestyle coach clients. Quite a few of them come from those kind of programs. So Stop Smoking, Better Health, your health programs, and Diabetes Undone, all those kinds of things are a good place to get clients. So, okay, so page 13, you connect through questions. We have our doctor retired, and I know every time he went in the public somewhere, people, like they just kind of offhand goes, hey, how you doing? And he would say, every day with Jesus is a great day. And then people don't know what to do. And then they just look at him and he says, now I'm going to ask you, how is your health? And then they find out he's a doctor and he can't get away from them. But he's gotten quite a few coaching clients through that. And so we can ask these questions that are not threatening to people, but that show our interest in them. You know, especially if they ask just an offhand question like, hey, how you doing? And you give them an answer that makes them kind of stop and think. You know, so those kinds of questions, and we'll be going through them. Now, questions that Jesus asked, this is page 14. He asked a lot of who, what, when, and how. Now, he didn't ask where question, but these are lists of questions that Jesus asked people, like what will it profit a man? You know, and where are we to buy bread? All those these questions that you can see outlined here, those are the questions that make people think and that are not typical, just superficial questions. And so these are the questions that we want. Okay, page 15. Now, we don't want to ask questions like we're interrogating them. Adventists are pretty good at interrogating people and forcing information on people. And so we don't want to do that. That's why it's so important for you to go through this whole booklet and see the kind of questions that you should ask and not interrogate them. I was doing medical missionary training school at Eden Valley, and I teach this class there. And so then we practiced, and we went door to door asking people if they want a 8-week or 12-week lifestyle program in their home. And this kid, he was about 6'2", really short haircut. He looked like a poster boy for Nazis. He went to the doors and he would go bang, 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 bang. And this one house, we could tell people were there, but they didn't come to the door. And so we went down the street, and this guy came, and he said, are you the one that just knocked on our door? And we said, yes. And he goes, man, don't knock like that. You sound like cops. And he said, what are you doing? So my Michael, he whipped out his clipboard and he started asking him questions. And his name, your address, blah, blah, blah. And he started asking questions, and the guy goes, man, you sound like a cop interrogating. So don't do that. But anyway, yeah, so we want to be really interested in people and not just get answers. Okay. So I think that Roxanne was really ready for this program, and so that helped a lot. We're really having a good time. And after the initial coaching session, which you sit down and you do your health evaluation, you kind of go over the program with them and stuff. Starting with the second session and the rest of the time, you walk. So walking really opens up people, and you know, when you're sitting there and you're asking them questions and waiting for an answer, this is so bad, but I was doing this older couple and they couldn't really walk, and so I was doing it in their home, and I was waiting for an answer and I literally fell asleep. It was so embarrassing. But sometimes it takes people a long time to answer. But when you're walking, it doesn't matter how long it takes because you're doing something. And I love the walking. Like Roxanne and I, we have walked every week, except for the weeks that I was gone. And you know, you can have conversations, you can ask questions, and they're not, even if it's a little bit personal, they're not like, you know, whereas if you're sitting there and you ask that same question, they would be really kind of maybe offended, or maybe they don't want to answer, they're uncomfortable. But when you're walking, somehow it's okay. So, and besides, it gets you out and going. I love your Olympic Oval, by the way. I could walk there all day long. And like I said, Roxanne's walking, like we went around 6 times the other day. And that she's really come a long way since we first started. So extra study and questions that Jesus asked, you can take a look at those. So questions that addresses worry And when you were walking, we talk about issues in our life, her life, my life. And those kind of questions, people sometimes like to share, and sometimes people don't want to share. And so there are different questions that you could ask to help them along. Because until they address the issues in their lives that affect their lifestyle, it's not going to be as effective, to help. But she's really ready. So one thing that I have found that's really common with people that I have coached is that they have anger and bitterness towards other people, like family members, or maybe their pastors, or someone that did them wrong. And unless you address those issues, you're not a psychologist, you're not a counselor, but you can be there to listen. And sometimes as people talk out those issues, it helps them a lot. And you can pray with them, you can empathize with them. And it does really open their hearts. So sometimes Jesus asked questions that made people argue. And that's not always bad. So you can, if they say something like, oh, I don't know if I should do this or that. Jesus didn't say, oh, you should do this. He asked them and said questions like, which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil? That made people stop and think, well, what's the answer? But it's kind of argumentative. But people were still willing to listen, and then they came to the conclusions themselves, the answer. And sometimes that's the best way. Sometimes you can ask questions that addresses their obstacles in life that prevents them from making changes, lifestyle changes. And sometimes those can be very sensitive too. So you need to be careful how you ask and what you ask. One of my favorite questions that Jesus asked, and it's in this book, Jesus kind of always said to people, what do you think? When people asked him questions, or when they wanted to argue, or when they wanted an answer so that they can catch him. He kind of turned it around and said, what do you think? And they made them stop and so what do I think? And so those are good. And you need to ask questions that allow people to voice their own needs. So, you don't project your need of what they should do. You need to ask questions that make them think, okay, what do I need? What do I need to do? Okay, now page 17 are like reasons why you should ask these questions. On page 18, I think this is really good because sometimes you get stuck in conversations. Sometimes you don't know what to say. So sometimes people share really painful, personal things. And sometimes it helps them to know that they're not alone. If you've gone through similar situations, you can share your testimony. And it helps them to feel like, yeah, I'm not alone in this. Now, if you haven't gone through those programs or those experiences, you can say, tell me more. And that gives them permission to share more, to address those issues. And then, like I said before, my other favorite questions that Jesus asked was, what do you think? Roxanne is going, yep. That's what happens. Okay, so on page 19, here are the sample questions that you can ask when conversations get a little bit stalled or when it gets a little difficult or you sense some sort of a resistance. These are kind of questions that you can ask. Page 19 and 20, okay, and 21. Now, this is the most important part, page 22. Page 22, like I'm not going over everything in these books because you guys will need to do that, at home. But this next part is the most important part. is listening like Jesus. The first instance that we hear of Jesus listening was when he was 12. And where was he? He was at the temple, and what was he doing? Well, he was listening, right? He was listening to those elders and teachers, and he was seeking, as Ellen White says, as one seeking for wisdom. So the teachers there thought, yeah, he's listening to us. He's asking questions. He's, wanting us to teach him. And so that's the first instance where Jesus is listening. And all through his life, he listened and asked questions, but humbly and as a learner. Sometimes when I go to lectures and seminars, if they've, like I've gone to a lot of health lectures and seminars, and you hear doctors and the presenters talk about like, yeah, you should only have like 2 glasses of wine a day, or you should only eat red meat 3 times a day, or whatever. You don't want to argue with them, but I ask them questions, like, what's in the wine that's so good for you that you should drink it twice a day? And what do they usually say? It's the grapes, that thing in the grapes. And I say, does grape juice have that same ingredient without the alcohol? And they go, oh, yeah, but wine tastes better. Or something like that. I don't tell them. I say, no, that's terrible. You shouldn't drink alcohol. Blah, blah, blah. And but I ask them questions. And like I said before, we as Adventists are very good at debates. We're really good at debates. Ellen White said that we are very good at debates, but we can be as dry as the hills of Gilboa, because we debate and we win and we're like, yes, we got them. My pastor in Minnesota, in every community there is a ecumenical group of pastors that meet every once in a while, and they share and they do whatever. So we got a new pastor, and after he'd been there for a few months, he got invited to join this pastoral group of a lot of different denominations and stuff in our area. And they said, well, we'd like you to join under one condition, that you don't debate us. And this other pastor said, one of the Baptist pastors said, we know you guys think you have all the truth and you can prove from the Bible everything, but we don't want to debate you. So he said, sure, I'm not going to debate anybody. And so we're kind of known for arguing with people and trying to win points. And this is something that we should not do. Debating or arguing with them only sets them more against the truth, more against the Bible, more against what God is trying to teach us. So don't argue, don't debate. Okay, ask questions humbly, ask questions that really draw out their needs. Okay, so page 23 is important. Now, why do we listen? Because it shows our interest and our love for them. I used to be really hard on people. Like, if they're talking about their problems all the time, I used to be like, what's wrong with you? Get over it, and, get over yourself and get on with the program. But that's not good. It's not how Jesus loved people. And Jesus loved others by listening to them. Listening, I found, is so valuable to people. You'll see there's a story on this page about this lady who was walking by. She was late, she had a million things to do, and she heard somebody crying. And she thought, it's not my problem. So she walked a few, but she was a Christian, and she just got this impression, no, go back and help. So eventually she does, and she knelt down and she said, why are you crying? And this lady shared with her, what was wrong. And after the conversation was done, this lady said, nobody ever talks to me. What she was really saying was, nobody listens. And so this lady prayed with her. She, and sometimes we see people in pain. Sometimes we hear people in pain, and we just go right by. We're missing a huge opportunity to minister to them as Jesus ministered to them. I mean, Jesus went, I heard a sermon one time with, you remember blind Bartimaeus and the little guy, Zacchaeus? Jesus went all the way to that area, which was miles out of his way. And the only incidents of why he went there are those two men, blind Bartimaeus and Zacchaeus. And he ministered to both of those people, but he went way out of his way. And it's good for us to have to go out of our way. I know we're all busy. I mean, we have a million things to do, but I also know we spend a lot of time, wasted time, and that time could be spent. I have a cousin, Jim, and he drives everyone nuts because he takes like 100 books, like Steps to Christ, Desire of Ages, Great Controversy, pamphlets, whatever, and he could give all those out in 1 week. And he could tell you testimony after testimony, and that's why he drives everyone nuts, because he doesn't shut up about it. But we should all be like that. He's a plumber, he's really busy, but he finds time somehow to give 100 books a week out. And that's a gift. I don't have that gift. I could take 10 steps to Christ on a cross country, and I'll come home with 11 because somebody gave me one. So I'm really trying to work on it. But, but God has given you other gifts that you can use.
And listening actually makes the what, when, why, and how they sort of reveal themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. So she said listening reveals what, when, how, and when of people's lives. Without you having to, and that works especially if you're walking. So I don't know what it is about walking that really opens people up. I used to not walk with people, and one of my students, he went out and he started doing this coaching. He became a Bible worker, and he taught all his church members. This is the one whose church went from 40 to over 120, and he started walking with people, and he called me up and he said, Miss Leasa, you got to walk with people. And he told me why, and I started doing it. This was about 4 years ago, and this is that's all I do. Now we have the first sit down. It's a little bit harder to keep track of their progress when walking, but you can glean how they're progressing as you're walking and talking. And so afterwards, she doesn't know this, but I always write down what she said about how her progress is going and how she's doing and stuff. And so it's a little bit harder because you're not at the table writing things, but it's really good. Okay.
Looking you in the face.
Yeah, and you're not sitting there staring at each other. Yeah. It's sometimes really uncomfortable.
The walk is so free.
Yeah, it is. It's freeing. You're usually outside, although I've been loving the oval here in this 100-degree weather. I've never seen anything like that. It's really, really good. Okay.
No. No, you don't have to buy a membership to get in. It's $5 just to go in. And
Yeah. But you can get a monthly for
I don't know how much the monthly is.
okay.
But
Yeah, you can get a monthly
if
thing.
I had a membership, I can walk there anytime, get in free.
Yeah. But hopefully this weather won't last too much longer. Okay. So, yeah.
Until October when it starts to freeze over.
So as you're walking and talking and sharing, I share things that are in the Bible. So like when some difficulty comes up or some issue comes up, I try to share similar stories of the same circumstances that's in the Bible and how these people dealt with it or how they were advised to deal with it. And so you're lifting up God through the scriptures. Okay, so page 26, Jesus' master class in listening. So we are not taught to listen. And the reason why we don't listen is because we are important to ourselves. So have you ever had a conversation with people and they're saying something and you're thinking in your mind what you're going to say next? Yeah, all the time, right? Yeah, well, you're not really listening to them. You know, you're not really listening to them. You're thinking about how you're going to respond, what you're going to say next, or whatever. And so this is really hard for me too. And I really had to work on this. And don't nod your head. Yeah. But it's really important to really focus. And if what they're saying is really personal and important, then you look at them. When you're walking, you know, it's a little bit more difficult, but I try. So the reason why we don't listen is because we're thinking of ourselves, our pride. And so it's really important to listen. And also, next page, 27, why we don't listen is because we're lazy. Listening is kind of hard work. You really have to focus and concentrate until you learn to do it. You know, we have a lot of distractions, there's a lot of noise, and the way that we want to spend our free time to unwind or to just be lazy is screen time, right? TV, computers, whatever, phones. And so for all these reasons, we're not listening to people. So we really want to listen. Roxanne, I have one here that's extra, but it's not in a binder.
Skips pages.
Pages are off.
Oh, they are?
I was just listening nicely. It's okay.
Oh, I have some extra pages. It may be there. Okay, sorry. Okay, but I can give you that one. It's not 3-hole punch, but if the church has a 3-hole puncher, you can put this in instead. Okay. So when Jesus listened to people, people felt listened to. They felt his compassion. They felt his interest in them. And so because he was interested in them, they became interested in him. And this is what we want to do. Now, page 29 is Bible verses about listening, and I want you guys to really study that. 30, now, some people start getting resistant. And sometimes when that happens, you need to kind of back up. We should never be demanding, and we should never be questioning how, like grilling them on how they're meeting their goals. I don't think we really even talk about your goals.
Sort of.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, just like, you know, like, what have you been doing this week? Have I yelled at you for not meeting your goals?
No, I was hearing something completely different
Yeah.
from what you said.
Yeah. But she's always exceeding her own goals, so I don't really have to push her. But some people you do have to push, and they will resist. I had a client, a husband and wife, and he was fine, but she started getting very defensive. And, you know, she started saying, well, I don't have time to cook that way, or, I don't have time to do that, and all this stuff. And so you can, like handling resistance, you can read that through. And one thing that I do when people start resisting, because your instinct is what? To defend yourself, right? Your instinct is defend you, but this is not about you at all. This is about them and their journey, eventually, ultimately, to God. And so you need to keep that in mind. And again, pride and self-centeredness comes in because you want to be right and you want to defend yourself. But it's really important that you don't do that. You listen and you stay calm. Pray for wisdom. Okay, the next section is discovery. And this is kind of important to help people to find purpose, choosing the right path, and steps along the path. This basically means like obstacles in their pathways. And it'll teach you how to help them find their purpose and the path that they want to go and the steps to take in that goal. Now, we're not that formal. And depends on people. Some people need that, goal-oriented, formal coaching sessions. But some people, they don't. They don't work that way. They work more towards a general purpose, and how to get there is just by setting these little goals. Okay, not like planned out things. Some people do like that though, and so you have to be really flexible when you're working with people. What that person's learning abilities, not abilities, but what do you call that? How they learn, how they make decisions, how they establish or how they live their life. And so you kind of have to be flexible and kind of go with that. Okay, so the next 2 pages are like lists of examples of purpose and the path and steps. Okay, page 35 is sort of it's after lunch. My brain is not working right. It's yeah. So anyway, it's this page. It kind of outlines in an easy way what you should do. Okay. Yeah. So for anybody, having a purpose is very important. And so for yourself too, if you've never thought about what your purpose in life is, you really need to think about it and sort of state it. I have a friend who has a motto for his life, and I really like his motto. And I thought of taking it from my own, but I know I can live up to it. But his is to love God. It's basically to love God with all his heart, and to be a friend and fellow to men, to live at all expenses to myself for the good of the others and God. And so, it's a wonderful purpose. And then how you do that is you break it down to how you're going to walk that path and what steps you need to do that. Okay, so the next few pages are the steps 40. Okay, this is quite a bit. Okay, motivation. It's really important to find the motivation of why people want to take this path to health. And what I've heard mainly from older people is they want to be there for their grandkids. For younger people, that they want to serve God in a more concrete way, depending on who you're talking to. I know there was one young man. I was coaching his mother, but he would come to every session, and he was 12 years old. And so his mother had cancer. And so we were kind of going through the program for cancer and, doing all of that. And about 10 weeks into the program, the little boy said, "I know what my purpose is." And I said, "What is it?" And he says, "It's to serve God." And I thought he was going to say, "Help my mom get over cancer." And he said, "It's to serve God." And I said, "Well, that's a wonderful purpose." I said, "What do you want to do to serve God?" And he says, "I want to be a preacher, because then people will listen to you." So I was like, okay, he has a little way to go thinking. But anyway, it's wonderful. And for motivation, for people to identify why they want to become healthier, it's really important for them to keep that in mind, to keep that in the forefront. And I know, with Roxanne, I can see the progress that she's making, and it just makes me so happy, But I tell her, I say, you're doing so great. And I don't know, she's never told me how she felt about it.
That makes me feel good.
Yeah, it makes her feel really good.
Not prideful, but I'm like,
Yeah, which righteous pride is what it's called. Yeah, so she feels righteous pride. But to give them those small affirmations, but do it sincerely. And I really do sincerely feel so happy for her. And so find little moments, find little ways that you can really build up their confidence and to encourage them. Okay, so now ongoing support. Sometimes people are not ready by the end of 12 weeks to quit. Like I said, I went 2 years with this one lady. This lady and her husband that I was talking about, I went for 8 months with them. So, be flexible. If they're not ready to quit, you don't have to meet with them every week. But, like I started meeting with her every 2 weeks, and then once a month, and then she would call me on the phone, and, different things. So if they're not ready to quit, don't say, like, okay, I'm done. Like, it's been 12 weeks. See you later. But really, by that time, you have really connected with them, and you really, you're invested in them. And so, you want to see it through. And sometimes it might take 2 years. I remember she, like I said, she wanted to belong to this dance thing. And so one day she says to me, because she knew I went on a lot of mission trips, she goes, I'm going on a mission trip. And so I was, oh, good for you. And I said, where are you going? And she said, Ireland. And I said, oh, what are you going to do there? And she goes, oh, it's a dance mission trip. And so, like, I was like, oh, okay. But, I was like, oh, that's so cool. And she said, like a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to, but now I'm in good enough shape, and I've lost enough weight, and I've learned the dances, and now I can go. And actually what they were doing was pretty cool. So they were going to go to inner cities, like Dublin and some other places. And they were going to work with children and teach them to dance their emotions. So like if they were angry, or they were sad, or if they were scared, or whatever, they taught them how to dance out those emotions instead of just bottling them. So I thought, after I heard that, I was like, wow, that's a pretty cool mission trip. And so be open, Now, if she said we're going on a drinking program, we're going to taste all their, what do they make in Ireland? Beer, or what do they call it? Whatever. Stout, or, yeah. I would have maybe not been so happy, but yeah. So be flexible, okay? Don't put on them your values and your beliefs and your doctrine. Be open. As you progress, they're going to see if you're in tune with God, if you have a personal relationship with Jesus, they're going to see that, and they're going to come to know Jesus as you do. And that is our goal. Like we said at the beginning, if we lift him up, he will draw them to himself and to eternal life. So this is our goal. Okay, principles used in Lift. It's on page 47. There's no page number there, but you'll see it's in big letters, principles. So this section kind of explains why we're doing this, and why we're doing this is to lift up Jesus and to draw people to him, and he will teach them and convict them of the truth. So, but the important part, okay, the next 2 pages are just promotional materials that you can use if you ever want to train. Okay, now page 51 through 60 is basically how you can be reflectors of Christ. Okay, but in order to reflect someone, he has to be in you. So if Jesus is in you and you're looking at a mirror, you should see Jesus, right? Yeah. You should see His principles in your life, His thoughts. I always pray, because I'm kind of hard on people, I always pray, God, let me see people through your eyes and your heart, because I tend to not do that. And so if you personally have a relationship with Jesus and He is in your life, then it's going to shine out through you. So that's really important. And actually, like Bible studies and these health studies, it really drives you to your knees. Because there are some situations that you don't know what to do. You don't have an answer for. Sometimes there's questions that you can't answer, and you have to go to God. You have to just go on your knees and say, Lord, help me. What do I do? What do you have in mind for this person? Like, what's the best plan that will give them the best life, the best health? And sometimes you don't know. And so many times, when I've prayed that prayer, and then you do your daily devotion, it comes to you. I mean, it's like right there. Like, how does God do that? It's like you have this question, and then you open your devotional books or the Bible, and the answers are like right there. It's so amazing. It's just crazy amazing. Jesus changed the whole world. And in the Bible, it says that the disciples turned the whole world upside down. Now, how in the world? What happened? What are we doing to change our world and our community? What are we doing? Are we too busy? I mean, Jesus was the busiest person. And then he would pray, like all night sometimes. And so and the goal of Jesus, one of the main goals of Jesus was that he came to reflect who? His Father. Yeah, he came to reflect his Father. And he told Philip, he said, if you have seen me, you have seen the Father. And so what we would like to do is, if they've seen us, they have seen Jesus. And to felt his love and his compassion and his interest in them, because we love them and we feel compassion for them, and we want to see them succeed. Okay, on page 53, this is sort of, you don't? Oh man, I have extra pages here. That's a Mass Original. Okay. Oh, yours didn't have one either. Okay. Just a minute. Okay. Okay. Yeah. No, I have some extra pages, but like, I did this at UPS.
Copy these. Do you want me to?
Yeah, we need to copy some. Yeah, I did this at UPS, and there was like a small table, and I was trying to organize everything, and it was just crazy. But we can make more copies afterwards. Okay. So page 53. It's talking about personal work, and Ellen White has so much information on why we should do personal work, and this is personal work. It's like doing one-on-one Bible studies, but it's on health. But there's a lot of spiritual components to it, and so, copy pages 53 to 60. So anyway, read through this, because it'll really be a motivating factor. There's a statement, and I didn't have time to look it up, so I don't know exactly where it is. I think it's in Gospel Workers, it's in several books, but there's a statement where she says, medical missionary work will be the last work to be done. Churches will close. We cannot do evangelistic meetings anymore. We cannot do Bible studies in the homes and stuff, but she says medical missionary work will go on. And so it's really important for every church member to learn how to do medical missionary work, and that's exactly what this is. And so, because that's a work that we can do when everything else closes. So, the rest of the work is like Bible promises. Now, Bible promises are really important too, because for every problem in life, there's a Bible promise. And so, the more you can use the scriptures to help people, the more motivated they will be, the more inspired they'll be, because God's word has power. I mean, more than power. I mean, he spoke light into existence. He spoke the whole world into existence. Now, those were words that came out of his mouth, but the Bible are words that come from him. And so every word in the Bible has the same power as his spoken word. And so the promises in the Bible, and there's a whole list of them there, you can use, when people are discouraged or they need to be inspired, they need to be strengthened, they need to be encouraged, we can use these Bible promises. And it does work. Okay? So the health principles, the very last page, page 60, is the New Start principles. Okay? So and that's what the whole program is based on, is New Start. But breaking it down to help people in their homes. So our lifestyle program, our cancer program, costs $5,000 for a 2-week program. For just general lifestyle program, it's about $4,000. But we're taking this same program and doing it in people's homes. Now, we've had medical missionary students who have gone home. I know there's a college girl, she went to one of the Ivy League schools on the East Coast. It was one of those women's colleges. Is it Radcliffe? Or anyway, it's one of those Ivy League schools for women. And she started doing wellness coaching in people's homes, and she was charging $45 an hour. And so she was making enough money so she didn't have to get a job. And she could set her own schedule depending on her semesters and classes and stuff. And so you can use it for that too, but we want our church members to do it as a service to their community. Now, I've done cooking schools where my lifestyle coach client, I've had her set up a cooking school in her house and charged each person $25. But I gave them a cookbook and some other things that was worth $20 because I found that people, when they pay, it's more valued. If you do everything for free, then it's really not valued. Almost every program that I do at a church, I charge people. Not training, but like people that come in for Diabetes Undone, for cooking schools and things like that. But you give them a cookbook, or you give them something of value. But if they pay for something, I find that they're much more attentive. They're much more ready to attend. They don't skip classes. I did an 8-week creation cooking school one time, and I don't think anybody missed one because they paid. Creation cooking? Well, there's a program called Creation. It's like New Start. Yeah, but it's just called Creation. It's a church's program. New Start came out of Weimar, but Creation comes from North American Division. And so they were doing that program, and I did a cooking school with our students every week, which was 8 weeks. But we charged for the cooking school. The creation part was free, but nobody missed. Well, there were maybe a couple of them that missed a couple times, but hardly anybody missed. So this is the coaching program, and your manual, hopefully, I'm so sorry about those missing pages. Yeah, I just had this little table. Oh, you do? See, this is why. Okay, there's a second set of page 53 to 60. Yeah, so you can get that one. Yeah, you can, yeah. There you go. That's why it's missing. Well, because I had them all laid out. And I was trying to put them all together because I copied these not straight through, but in batches because there's some colored copies. And so I got mixed up. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, who wants to be coaches? You want to be a coach? Oh, Ray, you're going to be a client first, okay? You don't want to be a client? Okay. Okay. I thought we decided we were going to work on your health issues first. Yeah, your health issues, and then you. Yeah. Oh, okay. You can be a coach if you want. You can teach yourself. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. So, well, I don't know if we have any clients. You have a license to be a client? Okay. Well, we'll sort this out in a little bit. Okay. So what I would like you to do is find someone to coach. Now, there may be people here that are church members here that are not here in this room right now, but they may be interested in being clients. Or you can find somebody in your family. You can find somebody outside in the community, maybe your neighbors. I know my son's mother-in-law, she already has 2 clients. You know, so one's a church member from her church, and another one is someone that used to be a church member. And this is something that you can do too, is look through the list of former church members, and this is a good way to connect with them. You know, especially if they've just had a heart attack, if they've just found out they had cancer or whatever. And, you know, just say, hey, you know, I heard this, we're so sorry. I am taking a class on how to be lifestyle coach, and I need to find somebody to coach. And it's a 12-week program for 1 hour, and this is what I'll be going over with you. You know, if you're interested, I would love to. You know, if you could let me practice. Just say, I need 24 hours of coaching to get my certificate, and so I would love it if you would let me practice on you. I don't know if you say practice on you, but something. And so, yeah. Okay? So, do you have any questions? Not yet. Yeah. My plan was that I was going to go with anybody that wants me to go with them to the first session. I was going to do that, but I have to go back to Colorado on Monday for foreseeable future. I have to go back to Eden Valley. So, I don't know. It depends on how things go. But what we can do is, if you have any questions, I can give you my phone number. So if you want to write that down in your book, I put my name right here. So this is mine. So if you want to, yeah, you can take it out of the folder, so you can see it and put your name on it, so that, yeah, so that you can, huh? What? Hodges, Hodges. 507-261-2509. Yeah. So Leasa is spelled Leasa. Yeah. So, well, so if you want to be a client, talk to one of the people here. And I really, really hope you guys do this. It's so much fun. It really, really is. It's not scary. Well, I was scared the first time. But you kind of get over it right away. And it's so much fun. I do cooking schools in people's homes. And sometimes I ask them to invite other people. And you get more clients that way. And it's you know, like, as you see people progress and you can see the difference that's made in their lives, it's like, it's really fun. So I know we're all busy, but this is only 1 hour a week. Not even 1 hour now, because Roxanne has an afternoon job, so we have to walk real fast. Yeah. She's, yeah, and
I think we walked that like
so, yeah. Yeah. So it's it's hard sometimes, and it does take time and effort, but it's only an hour a week. We can all spare an hour a week. And as you see the improvements in people's lives and their interest in spiritual things, it is really, really worthwhile. Yes. Yeah, I've had 4 at one time, for a week one time, but that was right after our medical missionary students went door to door, and they did surveys, health surveys, and that's something that this church can do is just go around this area and do a health survey, community needs, and, huh? I've done husband and wife, but generally it's just one-on-one. So, yeah, the four times a week was a little bit rough, but yeah, but it was worth it. You don't have any free time left, but yeah, after you do it for a few times, it just comes more naturally, and you don't have to put quite so much effort into it. So, okay, so Pastor, can you pray for us? Yeah, so really pray about it. Just pray about it and ask the Lord to give you divine appointments.
Let's do that right now.
Yeah.
All right. Father in heaven, as we opened this talk, I want to thank you for being present. And I knew that we would be listening to things that Leasa was going to share that would point us to how you did things. And often, like Leasa mentioned, we don't know where to get started with people. We have no idea how to share this burning desire that we have regarding what you've done in our lives and how to communicate that appropriately to others. But this is such a great venue, such a great into people's lives, because we're doing exactly what you did. You served before you asked for people to follow you. And may we take advantage of these tools that Leasa's provided. May we grow in this area as individuals so we can listen to others, so we can sympathize with their needs. As one who is just like you, looking for their personal best, looking for to meet their needs, to show interest in them so that we can be effective gospel workers, and to be able to have the privilege of sharing you and the eternal truths you've given to us. Thank you again for this group of people that decided to follow you in this unique way. Bless them, give them courage, strength, and knowledge to go out and find people to serve. Like Leasa said, it might be a little difficult in the beginning, only because it's new to us. But the joy of seeing somebody change before your eyes is a privilege that no one can take away from us. And I can't wait to see all the testimonies of not only the coaches, but of those that have been transformed. May we carry out your work faithfully, Lord Jesus. We ask that we have the rest of the Sabbath afternoon and to spend time with you and to enjoy the last few hours as we depart from here. Please keep everyone safe as we go home. In dear Jesus' name, amen. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Leasa.